Chapter 2, Big Plans. Rachel's life was the woods, her studies, and her dreams of the sea. In 1917, if a girl liked science, she was expected to be a nurse or a school teacher. Rachel did not want to be either. Although it seemed to have nothing to do with nature, Rachel wanted to be a writer. I have no idea why, she tried to explain later. There were no writers in my family. I read a great deal, and I suppose I must have realized someone wrote the books and thought it would be fun to make up stories too. Rachel, now a fourth-grade writer-to-be, read every book in her house. When her father wheeled the buggy out of the barn and hitched up the horses, she would plead to go along to town so she could visit the library. Each month a magazine called St. Nicholas came in the mail for her. It was full of interesting stories, poems, and articles. Rachel liked the St. Nicholas League pages best. This section was written entirely by children and teenagers. Every one of those thousands of young writers became members of the League. Only the best were printed. Rachel wanted to see her own writing in St. Nicholas, but what would she write about? An idea came from Robert. The First World War had started in Europe, and the United States was getting ready to send its soldiers to join the battle. Like many young men, Robert joined the U.S. Army. In one of his letters, he reported a true story about a Canadian pilot who kept his plane flying after one of its wings had been shot off. Rachel tried different words and sentences to see which best told this exciting story. She crossed out extra words. She read the story aloud to herself and made even more changes. Finally, it was good enough to show to her mother. Miss Carson said it was ready to send to St. Nicholas. After that, as each issue arrived, Rachel turned to the St. Nicholas League section first. Month after month passed with no word about her article and no sign of it in the magazine. By now the country was at war with Germany, and American men were fighting and dying overseas. Battle news filled the papers and came into the house over Robert's radio. Marion married and left the farm, but Rachel's life went on as usual. She read, walked the woods, studied, and waited. Almost a year later, in the September 1918 issue, there it was, A Battle in the Clouds by Rachel L. Carson, age 10, Silver Badge winner. She read again the pilot's story in her carefully chosen words. He crawled out along the wing, inch by inch, until he reached the end. He then hung from the end of the wing, his weight making the plane balance properly. The Germans saw him and could not but respect and admire the daring and courage of the aviator, and did not fire until the plane had landed safely. There was something else in the mail that month, a check from St. Nicholas for $10. The award was a lot of money in those days. Now Rachel knew she could be a real writer. Her next submission to St. Nicholas, A Message from the Front, was another battle story. Later she explained that, for her, good writing had always meant hard work, writing and rewriting endlessly until you are satisfied that you have said what you want to say as clearly and simply as possible. That kind of hard work paid off. Her second article won a gold badge from St. Nicholas in February 1919. A third piece, A Famous Sea Fight, was printed that August, listing her as an honor member of the League. Rachel had still another success with St. Nicholas while she was 11. For her English class, she had written about why she liked St. Nicholas magazine. The advertising department of the magazine bought the essay and paid her a penny a word for it, which came to just over $3. This time, the money was not a prize, but a payment. For years afterward, Rachel liked to say that she became a professional at the age of 11. Rachel worked hard at school for the next few years, knowing she would need good grades to get into college so she could become a writer. Those years were full of changes for the world and for the Carsons as well. After a long struggle, American women were finally allowed to vote. The very first radio station was on the air, and the U.S. Navy had sent an airplane all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. The Carsons had a car now, and a bathroom indoors. Robert was away, working in Pittsburgh, and Rachel had to change schools. Springdale High School stopped at the end of 10th grade. For 11th and 12th graders, Rachel went to Parnassus High School. It was a lonely place for her. Her mother had taught her to choose friends very carefully. Even when she was sure she liked a person, Rachel was too shy to make friends right away. Rachel's new teachers were happy to have her in their classes, but Rachel's classmates were not so impressed. Rachel got to know some of them by playing field hockey. She liked being outdoors and found that she liked the game too. Rachel finally made the team in 12th grade. Schoolwork was still the most important thing in her life, though. Her classmates wrote a poem about her and put it beside her picture in the high school yearbook. Rachel's like the midday sun, always very bright, never stops her studying till she gets it right. Now it was time for Rachel to choose a college. Miss Carson wanted her youngest child to study at an all-girls school near home. Pennsylvania College for Women in Pittsburgh suited Miss Carson. Rachel agreed, but they would have to find over $1,000 just to pay for the first year. Money Mr. Carson couldn't spare. The dean in charge of Pennsylvania College for Women wanted Rachel as a student. The school gave Rachel a scholarship, a gift of money. They helped her get a loan, too. While Rachel waited for college to begin, she spent time in the woodlands around her home, hiking and camping. "I am never happier," she said at the time, "than when I am before a glowing campfire with the open sky above my head." She was filled with wonder when wild animals would creep close to her as she sat, patient and still, dreaming about her future as a writer. Rachel's life, however, did not turn out quite the way she'd planned.